Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back, I'm not going anywhere. Beast! Peekaboo, I see you because I'm YouTube famous now. Available in 2022, the album, the deeper edition, Dad, AM, Rock On, Gold Dust, Woman, Beast! How are you guys doing today? Oh my gosh, listen, I just got back in the car. I just did a video for my Peter Does Stuff channel, walking in Richie Woods. I woke up today and it was so beautiful when I looked outside. We got so much snow overnight. Let me show you. We finally got some snow in Indianapolis, so I decided to come to Richie Woods, and I'm here right now, and I decided to walk around and just tell some stories, and I just had such a great time. My cheeks are rosy, and yeah, it just was a really nice way to, I had some coffee before I went out, I had some coffee when I got back in the car, and it was just a really nice way to kind of like relax. And it's really interesting because if you've been watching my videos lately, you know that I love these videos about like people that live off the grid, and I have been enjoying nature a lot. I know it sounds strange, but I'm not somebody that ever wanted to hike or camp or do any of that stuff, but it's starting to become more and more interesting to me, and I'm like really enjoying being outside in nature. So, I think more of that will be coming this spring and summer, and I'm really excited about it. I love just like walking in the woods. I grew up in the woods. My house was in the woods, and so we would follow the creek when I was a little kid. I told all these stories on my Peter Does Stuff video, so if you want to hear about those stories and how I got stuck in an animal trap and my dad had to come and get me, listen to that over on my Peter Does Stuff channel. But I wanted to do a video today following up my Q&A that I did yesterday, but I kind of wanted to do deeper questions, like I just said at the beginning of this, going in, because a lot of people ask me like very deep questions about my life. And, you know, those are really the videos that I love to do. Speaking of my Peter Does Stuff channel, I mean, over there I have talked about my issues with my weight, body dysmorphia, social anxiety, my recovery. I talk about all of this on my vlog channel on a regular basis as well. And so these are really the videos that I love to make, because I always said that when I got on YouTube, that I wanted to share pieces of my life so that I could meet other people that had experienced the same thing that I had, or maybe somebody would be like, oh wow, like, so Peter's gone through this, and you know, because that's really how I got through a lot, is by seeing it in movies or reading it in books or seeing it in YouTube videos. So I love sharing these stories of my life, and I really appreciate the questions that you guys ask me about my personal life. It really, it means a lot to me that you care enough to ask, and so I really appreciate it. You know, I say this regularly, but I haven't said it in a while, so I'm going to say this today because I'm just so full of gratitude and blessings this morning. I feel so just spiritually connected this morning, that, you know, I wake up every single day. Somebody actually asked me, they said, what does a day in your life look like? That was one of the questions that I got. Well, you know, I wake up in the morning and I take the dogs outside. Well, I've been waking up in the morning. I used to wake up later, but I've been going to bed earlier. And I get up and I take the dogs outside, and I have a glass of water, and then I do my prayers and my meditations, and I do a gratitude list in the morning, and that kind of gets me centered, and then I ask myself, are you ready to start your day? And so sometimes I'm not ready to start my day. Sometimes I need to listen to some music. Sometimes I need to listen to a little bit of an audiobook, you know. Sometimes I need to, you know, make the bed, which is one of the things I typically do in the morning as well. And, you know, wash my face, do a face mask, sometimes things like that. And then I start my day when I'm prepared. It's been a really good way for me to learn how to respond and hit the pause button throughout the day as things happen, instead of being reactionary. You know, I used to wake up and I'd be like, coffee, have to have my coffee, and, you know, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I don't like living my life like that. I like living my life in a much, I don't know, calmer, smoother manner. And so, and I've had much more peace and serenity since I have slowed things down, and it's made all the difference to me. But because I am feeling so full of blessings and gratitude, I do want to say this. You know, somebody asked me, what do you do? What's your day look like? So I wake up and I do all that, and then typically the day before, I make a list of all the things I want to do the next day. Something I've done the majority of my life, well, since I've been sober. And I go through my list and I see like how I'm going to do things, and then I film, you know, 4 to 6 videos and listen to my audiobook. Right now I'm listening to the book for Peter's book club this month, which is Joan Didion's Slouching Towards Bethlehem. It's narrated by Diane Keaton on Audible, and it's absolutely fantastic. I tweeted out that it's pure gold. It absolutely is. It's beautiful. And it's essays about the United States, the Haight-Ashbury, Joan Baez, things that happened in California in the late 60s, the mid to late 60s, and it's just an absolute beautiful representation of that area of the United States at that time, and really how it is still affecting us today, you know? So that kind of like that hippie culture a little bit, it's beautiful. And, but anyway, I want to say that I get up every single day and figure out what kind of thing I'm going to review today, what Starbucks drink or what food item I'm going to do. And, you know, I get to sit down and do my Peterisms videos where I read meditations and, you know, and share what I think about that, and, you know, do drama videos, which are fun for me because I get to share my opinion about stuff that's going on, whether on YouTube or pop culture. And, you know, my Peter Does Stuff channel, I get to, you know, just share pieces of my life or go shopping, some store I've never been to typically, you know, or just all kinds of stuff. And I just, you know, and then I end my day with my vlog, which is just literally my heartstone. And I share stories of my life over there. And that's because of you guys, and that you guys watch my videos, and I feel so just unbelievably blessed that this is my life. I never in a million years thought that 49 going on 50, this would be my life and this would be my career. And, you know, and 20 years ago, we didn't even have YouTube, so I wouldn't have been able to understand that anyway. But I just want to say thank you for that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to just sit here as soon as I got in the car and do this video, because I'm feeling so absolutely peaceful and serene right now, having just walked out of the woods. So I want to just so you guys can see, I just want to show you what it looks like, what I'm looking at right now, just so you can see. I don't know if you can see that very well, but just absolutely beautiful. And that's the entrance to the park right there. So I want to get into these questions. I looked at them a little bit yesterday when I was going through the drama questions, but I didn't really get into looking at specifically like how the questions were asked and things. So let me get in here and see some of these questions. And okay, let's see. Which channel of yours is your favorite? Okay, so, and that was asked, I don't know how to pronounce these Instagram names. You know, I don't really have a favorite channel. It kind of depends on what mood I'm in for that day, honestly. My vlog is something that I absolutely just love to do every single day. The lighting is horrible in here, I know. It's just cloudy and overcast and snowing anyway. So, but my vlog is something that I absolutely just love to do on a daily basis. And you know, in the last year, there was the starting of the group on Facebook, the Vloggerinos, and it was a group of people that just met in my comment sections of my vlogs. And so they started this Facebook group where they share, you know, things with each other about their lives. And it's so cool to me that people met in the comment sections of a video. I mean, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them, right? So I absolutely love my vlog. Each, you know, it's like having 5 different friends, and each friend is kind of like a different part of your life. I want to the lighting is so bad right now. Okay, maybe it's like clearing up a little bit. If I put my arm down, is that better? Okay, I was gonna turn my car around because I was like, the lighting is so bad. Can you guys even see me? But you know, it's kind of like when you have like 5 different friends or 6 different friends, right? And each one is kind of serves a different purpose for you. You know, like my drama channel is really definitely like my going out friend. I mean, it's like where I would sit in a car with my friend Tanya Jean and we would have some like, you know, conversation about the Real Housewives or something. Like that's that channel for me, you know? And my Peterisms channel is really where I have a conversation about like recovery, and you know, that's where I would like sit and talk to my friends that are in recovery about things like that. And I don't know. It's just like each channel and this is why I do have 6 channels, you know? I have 6 channels for a couple different reasons, because the people that watch my videos, not everybody wants to watch everything that I put out on, you know, each channel. So they can pick and choose which channels they want to watch. And I know it's probably not normal for most people to have, I know it's not to have 6 channels, but it works for me. And, you know, it's just, I love it. I love each and every one of them. They serve a different purpose for me. So, okay, let's see. Any tips for letting go of past trauma? Well, I don't think any of that is easy. I think it's about doing the work. And you know, and I'll say often in my videos, like, doing the work, or you have to do the work. And people ask me what that means. And, you know, it's about, going to therapy and maybe getting a counselor if you can. And if you can't afford it, there are a lot of places that offer, you know, sliding fee scales and low income counseling and things like that. There at very pivotal points in my life, I have been to counseling. When I was in high school and junior high, I saw a lot of counselors. Most of them I didn't like. When I got sober, I saw somebody as a counselor for quite some time, several times a week. And then when my husband and I we went to marriage counseling, and, so we would go to marriage counseling every week, but then we went to 2 sessions. So this is how, I don't know how to explain it to where it makes sense, but like every week we would go to marriage counseling, right? But then like either I would go or Alex would go for individual counseling, and then the next we would rotate. Does that make sense? So every week one of us was going for individual counseling, and every week we were both going for marriage counseling. And we did that for between 2 to 3 years. And that was so helpful because that was at a different point in my life. And I went in there with the attitude, you know, my sponsor had shared with me that when she was going to counseling, if she was going to go, she was going to get her money's worth. And I had heard her say that. And I was like, you know, if I'm going to go to counseling, I'm going to get my money's worth. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to like really deal with the hard stuff. And I did. And I talked about stuff that I didn't want to talk about. I talked about stuff that was difficult for me to talk about. I talked about stuff that was painful and that was hard. And I really was able to work through a lot. And that was really, really helpful to me. Okay, let's see. Somebody said, my mom is a writer who has been struggling with writer's block. Any suggestions for her? Well, I don't necessarily know. I've had writer's block for about 2 years, but, one of the things I heard years ago, I can't remember who said it, but I thought it was fantastic, is that writer, it was a writer that said it. It was a famous writer. I don't remember who it was though, but they said writer's block is when you know that there's something you need to write about, but you don't want to talk about it. So it's about talking about those difficult things in your writing and using it as a cathartic experience. So for those of you that don't know, I wrote a book and it was published in 2014. It was called The Before, Now, and After That. It's out of print. Don't try to buy it on Amazon. It's like $600 and I'm not selling it. I don't get any money off that or anything. I have read the entire thing on my BookTube channel from beginning to end. I did that like 2 summers ago so that people could hear it and they could enjoy it if they wanted to. That book was a cathartic experience for me, grieving the loss of my mom. And, at that time that I wrote that book, I was having all these just issues with like having lost my mom, and you know, I had gotten back into going to meetings again. I hadn't gone for 4 years, and then this was like a couple years after that. And so my husband and I were just driving around one night, and I didn't know I had all these different ideas for a book, and he goes, just pick one and stick to it. And then I was talking about, you know, like my mom a lot, and he goes, why don't you cathartically work that into your book? And I was like, God, that's really smart. And so, I was actually, the book that I wrote is about an identical twin whose brother dies of drunk driving accident. And I had never intended to make him, you know, a twin. And I worked this whole grieving aspect into the book. You know, is it the greatest book I ever will hopefully write? No, not at all. Am I proud of it? Absolutely. I can remember we're standing outside with our dog Pee-Pee that has since passed away. Right after I finished writing that book, you know, and it was this, you know, clear night and the stars and the moon were up, and I remember looking up at the sky and just tears filling my eyes, and I said, Mom, I wrote a book. You know, I was like so proud of that moment. And it had nothing to do with me publishing it or how much money I made off of it or whether it ever hit the New York Times bestseller list. It had everything to do with that I had been a lover of books my entire life, and I had actually finished writing a book. So I was very proud of that moment. Somebody else asked me on here, are you going to write another book? And I have really, like, I kind of came to terms with the fact that I think I'm more of a reader than a writer. But I have all these different ideas. I literally have notebooks filled with books and ideas. And, you know, I wanted to write a cozy mystery because I love cozy mysteries. But my husband and I are entertaining the idea of going to Florida for a month this spring, between like April and May, and renting a place down there and taking the dogs and just being down there for a month. He can work remotely, and you know, I do everything, you know, from home anyway. So we're really thinking about one other car pulled in, and there's another car in, and she's right next to me. She actually said hi to me when we were walking out in the woods, and she's getting ready to get in her car next to me. So you'll probably hear that in a second. But you know, I've been thinking about that. I've always like wanted to go somewhere as a writer. You know, like when you see like writers in movies and they go into a hotel room and they like, you know, write over a weekend or whatever. I've always kind of wanted to do that. And I have this idea about this woman that has gone through this horrific divorce, and her husband's getting remarried, and her kids are older, and they're like in college, and she feels very much alone, and she finds out that her best friend has passed away, or is about to pass away. And so she drives down to Florida to see her, and she's terrified of driving. She's terrified of everything. And it's really, the book is called, well, it alludes to changing your life in 30 days. And it's all based kind of like on this self-help motivational book that she bought. And so that she's reading as the book goes. And it's really about how she changes her life in the course of 30 days. And I've always wanted to write that book. I actually was working with a literary agent. There's a literary agent that I've been working with, and she was not that interested in that book. But I love the idea of this book, and I have it highly outlined. And so I thought, you know what? It takes place in Florida. If we go to Florida for a month, I might just sit there and write. You know, I might write a serial killer thriller. I don't know. But I might just take that month and every day get up and write, you know, 5 or 6 pages and look at that as part of what I do while I go down there, which I think would be really, really fun. Coyote asked, how are the dogs doing? Well, they said, how the dogs doing? The dogs are doing well. Boo Radley is doing fine. He's doing well. Tucker, for those of you that don't know, I did a video over on my Peter Does Stuff channel talking about it. We found out that Tucker had, I think it was in October, that Tucker has the exact same thing that our dog Pee-Pee had, that he has heart disease and heart failure, and he's on the same 3 medications that Pee-Pee was on. You know, I didn't have a lot of hope at that time, and I just have to say, by doing that video and talking about it in my vlog, so many people were so supportive and were like, you know, Peter, you have to have hope in this situation. It could be a year. It could be 10 years. These are the kind of things you say to people in your videos. You have to, you know, believe the same thing. And it was people saying that to me that really kind of like, you know, a flip switched in my head. And a switch flipped. What is it? A switch flipped, yeah. And I started seeing things differently and taking each and every day with him, just like I did with Pee-Pee. And, you know, we spend so much time with the dogs, just, you know, get as much time as we can with him. He has been coughing a little bit more than he did initially, but it's still less than Pee-Pee did his last year. So we don't really know. We just scheduled a vet appointment, a regular vet appointment this morning for, I mean, it wasn't today. We scheduled it this morning for coming up for their annual, you know, vaccinations, and then also for Tucker to have his blood pressure checked, and he has to have something else checked. So we have to go in for that consultation, and then they'll schedule that. And, you know, fingers crossed, they'll say that everything's going really well and the medicine's working. So that's how they're doing right now. But they're playing and having fun. And I told dog stories on my walk today. So, let's see. Okay. I'm trying to get through some of these. Somebody asked me how the fur babies are. Let's see. I mean, people, I thought there were all these deep questions. Now I'm like, who are your front runners for RuPaul's Drag Race? I don't know. I'm not really that blown away by anybody in RuPaul's Drag Race this season. I'm just not, you know? I don't know her full name, but it's Angie something. They call her Angie for short. I love her. And Cornbread, I love. And, so, What do I order at Cheesecake Factory? Several people asked me because we were at Cheesecake Factory that night. I usually either order an Impossible Burger, and like I have it made a special way and in the microwave and all that kind of stuff so that it's not made on the same grill as the other cheeseburgers, or I have the 4-cheese pasta. I love the 4-cheese pasta. Somebody asked me, how do you deal with loneliness? You know, it's interesting because I struggle going back and forth between this idea of being lonely and being alone. Like, I do very, very well alone. Almost to a point where at times I isolate. But like, if I showed you guys my phone, I think people think like I'm just constantly talking to people and doing stuff. My phone is dead. Like, my husband's phone constantly goes off. But like, I only have like 3 people that I interact with. So my phone is dead like all the time. You know, I hardly talk to anybody, and people hardly text me or call me except for like, you know, my best friend and like, you know, a couple friends of mine. Other than that, like, I really don't talk to people, you know, throughout my whole day. Like, I'm just kind of listening to music, listening to audiobooks, you know, that's it. There have been periods of my life, there have been periods while I've been on YouTube that I felt lonely, you know, and I think the way that I dealt with it is, like, I'm an only child. I grew up being very lonely when I was young, and so I would just look for ways to entertain myself by, you know, binge watching a TV show, which I have a hard time sitting there and doing that, or reading a book, or coming up with a new project. I think that's why I do come up with so many ideas and projects, you know. I don't really deal with loneliness as much anymore because my mother was somebody that was very, very lonely. And I would say to her, Mom, you know all these people. Why don't you reach out to somebody and ask them to do something? And she'd say, oh, I don't want to be a burden to somebody. And I think that's part of the problem with when you're lonely, is that you don't want to be a burden to anybody else. And so I had felt like that at times too. And then I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm going to reach out to people and see if somebody wants to do something. So I did. And that's kind of how I dealt with it. What weaknesses have you mastered since marriage counseling? Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know that I've mastered any of them, you know, but am I better today than I was then? Yes. Somebody asked me, like, when is it too late to go to marriage counseling and what inspired us to go? And I've talked a lot about this on here, but for those people that don't know, well, for those people that this is your first video ever of mine, which I'm sure it's not, I think a couple things you need to know is, you know, I'm gay. Hi. I have been out since I was 18 years old. Also, I've been sober for just a little bit over 27 years. My sobriety date is December 17th of 1994. My husband and I have been together for a little bit over 13 years. August is our anniversary, and we've been married for a little bit over, is it 10 years? I think it's 10 years, 11 years, 10 years. And so 2011, yeah, so it's been 10 years. I can't believe. I was like, I don't want to get it wrong, you know? And there was a period of our lives where we were not communicating, we were not getting along. We weren't really even, I would say we weren't even really fighting, which was really the sad part. It was just, we were so emotionally detached from each other. And I can't say that I ever fell out of love with my husband. I just wasn't invested in the marriage anymore. And it was really my husband's doing. He pushed it really hard. He was like, if we don't go to marriage counseling, we're going to get divorced. And I was like, okay. And I was very afraid to go to marriage counseling, especially as, you know, somebody that had like worked in the field and stuff. I was like, what's going to come out that I don't know. You know, are there going to be things that I don't want to talk about in marriage counseling or whatever, you know? And I was scared of it. I was really scared. And so finally my husband one day, we had just like a really bad weekend, and he said, we're either going to go to marriage counseling or it's done. And I was more scared to lose a marriage than I was to go to marriage counseling. So I said, fine. But there were a few things that were very important to me. Okay, the battery died, so I had to replace the battery. But anyway, there were a couple things with marriage counseling that were really important to me. One of them was that we both decided that we wanted to go see a man. And I had seen men and women previously, and I just always connected better in therapy with men. Except for that, my addictions counselor when I was in treatment was a woman, and she saved my life. But one-on-one, I've always worked better in therapeutic sessions with like men as my counselors. So we decided on that. And the second thing that we wanted was it needed to be somebody that was married, that understood. We felt like understood and believed in marriage, you know. And the other thing was, it was really important to me that they didn't have to be in recovery, but I wanted them to understand recovery and be able to use the same language that I use on a regular basis. And so Alex found a couple people. I called the guy that we found, and he was just fantastic. And I asked him some questions on the phone about recovery, and he just was like, he knew everything. He had done a lot of addictions treatment as well. So I felt very comfortable with him. We went, and the first question he asked us was, do you guys really want to save this marriage, you know? And it was fantastic. I think, you know, well, and the other thing is, the reason that we quit going was because he retired in his mid-30s. He found his, like, dream job, which had nothing to do with counseling whatsoever. It was, like, in flipping houses and stuff. And so, we would probably still be going to him now. In fact, we're in the process of looking for somebody else. Not because we're at any point of being divorced or anything. Our marriage is the best it's ever been. But it's like going to a vocal coach, even though you're a great singer. It's like we want to continue to have somebody to give us those skills and whatever, you know. One of the best things I probably learned in marriage counseling is that this idea of getting the marriage back that we had before, like, that was, like, over. Like, we were never going to go back to, like, 4 years before. You know, it was about redesigning boundaries, redefining boundaries, and having new rules and boundaries for our marriage. And we have a very traditional marriage. And so it was about, you know, just respecting each other and how to talk to one another. For example, I am somebody, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on video, Alex and I, but I am somebody that, like, if we have an argument, like, I want it solved right then. Like, I want to sit down and push it through. My husband is somebody that, like, you need to give him an hour or two, and then we can come back and have the conversation. And so really what it was about a happy medium of him saying, hey, listen, if you give me an hour, we can have the conversation, but right now it's not the time. And me respecting that he can't have that conversation right now. He needed to settle down a little bit. And we've learned that, you know, and that even led to us, like, really not having that many arguments anymore. I mean, we do, like, I think most married couples argue, but about the big stuff, no, we really don't. The other thing was, you know, there was a point where we would start having an argument, and then the argument would start having us. Like, it would be over, like, where do you want to go to dinner? And then 3 days later, it was like, you know, you didn't take the trash out, you don't love me, you don't respect me. And it was like, how are we going from picking a place for dinner and disagreeing on that to you don't love me, you don't respect me, let's get divorced, you know? And I think it happens in a lot of relationships. And so one of the things that we do today is we hit a pause button when we're having, like, any kind of argument or discussion that gets kind of heated. Is one of us will say, okay, I think we need to stop this right now and revisit this tomorrow. And that has been super, super helpful. So nothing have we mastered. We haven't mastered anything. I'm, like, seeing, like, all these squirrels climbing up the trees and stuff. We haven't mastered anything, but are we better now than we were then? Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that question. That was good. Somebody asked me, Christy said, are you planning on doing a video with Alex soon? I love seeing you two together. Yes, we are going to do a video for Valentine's Day, and we can answer any of these questions if you guys want to know. I actually saved the last questions because we never ended up doing a video together. Let's see, another question. If you could interview anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? I don't know that I would really want to interview somebody, but if I could just sit in a room and talk to somebody. God, there's so many people. Harper Lee, that wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. Maya Angelou. Janis Joplin, I think. It's tragic and sad, you know. I don't know. So many people, you know. My mom. Definitely. My grandma. You know, I found out since my mom passed away that my grandma went to prison. And my mom and I never had that conversation. You know, I found out from my dad after my mom had passed away, and I don't really know much about it. And I feel like my mom kept a lot of secrets from me, which is interesting because my mom was somebody that believed so much in, like, factual evidence of stuff. you know, I found out that my mom had spent an entire summer in Miami, Florida. And she said she had never been to Miami. Later, my aunt told me that the reason that, you know, my mom probably, I think she said something like, the reason my mom didn't tell me was probably because then she would have to say where they got the money. And I said, well, where did you get the money? And she goes, I don't know, probably grandma's stolen money. They stayed in Miami, Florida at the Delano for an entire summer. And I'm like, and I didn't know anything about this, you know, that, I don't know. There's all these things that I wish I could ask my mom now. That's who I would ask. I would sit down and have a conversation with my mom about all the things that I've wanted to know that I have found out since and there's a lot of things that I found out about my mom and her life that I've never shared on YouTube videos or online, that I'm very interested in. So that, I think. My grandma actually went to prison twice for embezzlement. And I mean, it was in the papers and stuff, so I would like to know more about that. Let's see. So many people are like, no question, just want to say I love you. You guys are so sweet. What's something that has made you proud recently? Something that has made me proud recently, honestly, is the video that I made the other day, talking about my work history. It's a video that, you know, somebody asked me the other day, yesterday actually, they said, do you wish you had made that video 3 years ago? And I'm glad I didn't make that video 3 years ago. I think it wouldn't have been received the way that I wanted it to be received. I don't want to have hate and animosity or resentment or anger towards anybody in my life. And that video 3 years ago would have been very reactionary. You know, I just don't have any anger in my heart anymore, you know? And so I'm proud of that video. I'm proud that I finally, you know, I called my best friend before I made the video and I said, what do you think? Because she, you know, knew the history of all of it. And it was very painful for her back then, you know, because, you know, she's like, I know the truth and this is not the truth of what people are saying. And you've worked so hard to have to deal with this. But, you know, I'm a believer that principles only mean something if you stick to them when they're inconvenient. And when I called my sponsor and we talked about it at that time about addressing it, she said, no, like, you know, first of all, this is not the time. And she said several things, but she said, you're not going to bring all these other people into it. You're just not going to do that, you know? And, but she said, if you decide to do it, you do it. But, you know, this is what I'm suggesting. And I chose not to. And yeah, I'm really happy that I didn't in retrospect. I don't think I would have said it the way that I said it the other day. And now I want to let that go and move through it, you know? It's time. So. I do want to say about that video though, so many people said to me like, you know, I'm going to address this. I actually wasn't going to say anything else about this. First of all, so many people said to me, you know, I told myself I wasn't going to say anything else about this. I wasn't going to address this, but oh well, it came up. So my proudest moment came up. So I'm going to talk about it. You know, so many people said to me, you know, really nice comments like, oh, you're a better person than me. I could never have forgiven her and blah, 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 whatever. You know, I think that one thing that we have to remember is that forgiveness is not necessarily always for the other person. It's for ourselves. And I love the definition of forgiveness by Oprah, that forgiveness is accepting that what happened in the past happened. Not that what happened was okay, but that it happened, and now let's move on and figure out what we're going to do with that pain, right? So that we're not held hostage to the past. I don't want to be held hostage to the past. I don't want to have disagreements with anybody on YouTube. I want to get along with people. I want to enjoy what I am doing over here, you know? It has been a long process. It's not just like I woke up one day and I was like, yeah, everything's fine. I don't care anymore. You know, it was a process of me taking a look at what my part in that relationship was and reaching out to that person and making amends and saying, I want to make amends to you, you know, and being able to have that conversation. And one thing I didn't say the other day about that conversation on the phone was that it ended very lighthearted. I mean, we were both like laughing on the phone and things like that, you know, and so I really thought at that time it was done. Like I really believed that any animosity that Paige and I had between each other was done. And so I moved on as if it were. There are a lot of people in my life that I have made amends to, or that I have had interactions with, or they've made amends to me, but we don't go back to being great friends. We don't go back to being buddy-buddy, and we were never that to begin with. So to me, it wasn't unusual to move through it and say, hey, I wish you the best. I want you. And that was really why going into the new year, I said to my sponsor, there are several people I want to make amends to before starting the new year. And that was my goal. And so I did feel that way. You know, it was a freedom for me a little bit on letting go of all of that history and that past. I'm thankful that she brought it up in a video and gave me the opportunity to address this again. Now, one thing I do want to say about all this is that so many people were thankful about, were so nice. I want to say I'm thankful for that, right? But apparently there were just a few people that misunderstood that I showed my master's degree, which is a master's in social work, okay? And that then I showed my name tags, which is that I was a counselor, okay? And at that time, and I have had, thank you guys all for sending it to me. I don't need you to send it to me anymore where the laws changed. Everybody has sent it to me, and the laws changed in 2008 going into 2009. There were a lot of people have sent me ones from 1998. That's something completely different. I was already aware of that one. But the laws changed in 2008 going into 2009, which would have been absolutely 100% accurate, according to my history of when I changed my practice over to a life coaching practice. But apparently there were a few people that were like, well, he still didn't prove that he was a psychotherapist. Okay, at that time, psychotherapist, and to some degree today still is a umbrella term that social workers and counselors are underneath, okay? It was a term that we were asked to use. So when I was asked to provide proof that I was a psychotherapist, there's no way, and I explained this to Paige at the time. I said, there's no way I can prove this to you. She was like, no, I need documentation that you were a psychotherapist. You don't get a degree for a psychotherapist, okay? It's a title. So there's no way that I could have proved that. So I did the best that I could. I proved that I was a counselor. I proved that I'm a master's level social worker that had 13 years of experience directly working underneath an addictionologist that is JACO approved, and that was one of the leading addictionologists in the country. And I also worked underneath a psychiatrist for 13 years. I think that's probably enough at this point. It was the term that we were asked to use by probation departments. I don't know what else to say to prove that, and I'm not going to. And I do want to say this, that one of the overwhelming comments that I got on that video was, why you should ever be asked to prove anything about your past is ludicrous, right? And you're absolutely right. I never should have been asked anything to prove about my past. But it came up, and I think this is the other thing, and I'm not saying that because I have any animosity. I don't. Like I said in my video the other day, I wish Paige the best. I'm excited for a successful career for her and her family and her husband and stuff. I really am. I don't want it, like I said, if she reaches out to me, or, maybe someday I'll reach out to her and be like, hey girl, loved your video. How are you doing? Like, I don't have any anger or anything about that, right? It's time for us to let this move on and be done with it, And I do think that was one of the reasons why she did the video. Not just my part, but all of it, was let me just address all this stuff and then, let's move on, I can't speak to how other people perceived that video. I can only speak to how I perceived my part of that video. And in all honesty, it's much more than I thought I would ever get. So, blessings to her and her family. And that's honestly how I feel about it. I don't want to, be angry about stuff anymore. It's just not worth it to me, But I will say this, I'm done proving myself in my past. I had a career that I was very proud of for a very long time, and I'm not in that career. I mean, I said in that video that it was surreal to me because it's like, I have been gone longer from the career that I had to prove that I had than I worked there at, and I was there for 13 years. I mean, that's a long career. So I'm done discussing it. I'm done proving it. It's time to move on. But thank you guys all for my support. I appreciate it. And let's see. Somebody asked me on the heels of this, would you ever get back into, Kendall said, would you ever get back into life coaching? No, I don't believe that I would. I am a believer that you do things for periods of your life and then you kind of move on from that. Do I have plans about future ventures and projects that I would like to engage in? Yeah, absolutely. I've talked a lot about the Boogeman Besties podcast I'm starting with my friend Melissa. We are working with a company to get that listed and put out, and we are working currently on outlining the episodes. It's going to be done very well. I'm very excited about it, and we were kind of waiting for that. That's why it's taken some time. And then I really would like to start towards the end of the year a podcast of myself. That would be once or twice a week of just me talking about life. That's what I like talking about the most is life. So, that's another thing that I have in the future that I would like to look forward to. Okay, let's see. How is the Miami house hunting going? Well, we've kind of put it on hold a little bit, honestly, because my husband and I at this point are not entirely sure if we want to buy immediately. Here's the deal, okay? I know people are like, so you're not buying a house in Florida anymore. Like, I get this question all the time, right? Even when I don't do a Q&A. I don't know if people are aware. So we want like an apartment in a building in like Brickell or Midtown. You're looking at several $100,000, okay? That's an expensive venture, number one. Number two, we want to redo our condo that we live in to just make it the best condo that we could, our dream condo, right? And then we're going to go back and forth from Florida to Indianapolis. That's our dream. Originally, we had wanted to move down there full time, but in the last couple years, we've changed it to wanting to go back and forth. We're not really sure where we want to put our money first, is what it is, number one. Number two, this kind of leads to us getting like an Airbnb for a month. We're also discussing the idea of what if we just had the condo here and then we like 2 to 3 months a year, different months, like maybe like February, May, September, went and stayed in like Arizona, Florida, San Diego, and did like a month here and there, you know? I mean, because my husband can part-time work remotely for his job, and, he would have to fly back for meetings and stuff, but my brother-in-law lives in San Diego. We love San Diego. Florida, we love. There's different areas that we love. So that's one of the things that we're actually thinking about. So the house hunting's kind of on hold. But when we do buy, if we do buy, it will be in Brickell or in Midtown in Miami, because we love those two areas. Alex's favorite book is actually The Wolf at the Table by Augustin Burroughs. He loves Augustin Burroughs. But he doesn't really read a whole lot anymore. Olivia asked, I love that name. Recovery question. What's a defective character you feel you've mostly rid yourself of? Oh God, that's a good question. A defective character that I have mostly rid myself of. I don't know. None of them. I mean, they pop up from time to time. What's the defective character I've really worked on, in the last couple years? Rage. Now watch, I'll say this and then something will get me. I want to make this different, or I want to clarify the difference. When I'm in a video and I'm talking about something, whether it be The Housewives or, Trisha Paytas or Shane Dawson or Jeffree Star or, some TV show that I'm watching, I get very passionate. There to me is a very big distinction between passion and rage, okay? Rage is anger related. I do believe I am somebody that used to feel a lot of rage in my heart, and I've done a lot of work on that. I've done a lot of, peaceful meditation and practice serenity in my life to not have rage in my life anymore, and I don't want it. Do I have anger? Sure. Do I have ways to manage my anger today? Absolutely. And that was something that I worked on in counseling, and that is something that I've worked on with my sponsor as well, because we did this huge inventory this summer, 2 hours of 9 hours each. It was pages long that I did. I just like typed all these pages up, And we did a huge fear inventory, and on there, one of my fears was my anger. And we talked a lot about how I manage my anger in the past and how I'm doing it today. And so I've really worked a lot on that. So that's a good question. I think patience is also is a character defect that I've really worked on, and that's been just like taking things slowly as they come. Okay, let's see. What's the best way for a couple to reconnect? Well, I mean, if like without going to marriage counseling, I think vacation. I think my husband and I always connect so well on vacation, even if it's just go to a hotel room for a night or two. I think maybe go out to dinner somewhere and have a little date night in your town. I mean, you don't have to stay at the ritziest, hotel and have the nicest. You can go to Denny's and stay at the Hampton Inn or, whatever, and spend $100 total if you can. Or I don't know, make yourself a little staycation at home. But for me and my husband, we always like really reconnect on vacation. It's like, but like not just that, but like, I look at my husband and I just, I feel blessed because one of the things that marriage counseling gave me is it allowed me to stop looking necessarily at the problem sometimes, and it allowed me to look at my husband and say, damn, I am so in love with this man, and I feel so blessed to have him in my life. And it also, one of the most valuable things it taught me was, and I've talked a lot about this on my Peterson's channel, is that I was so codependent for so long that I believed that I needed a man to complete me. I really, really did. I believed that I was worthless unless I had a man to define my worth, okay? And so I was in one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, the majority of my life since I came out. And, you know, in marriage counseling, one of the things that our counselor worked with us on was, you know, he asked me, you know, do you need Alex in your life? And I said, well, yeah, sure. And he goes, no, are you dependent? Like, do you have to have him? Would you survive if he was no longer in your life? And I was like, yes, I would survive if he was no longer in my life. And it was like this total moment of clarity, right? I was like, oh my God, I don't think I realized that before. And he said, what you're realizing is, you choose for Alex to be in your life, and he chooses for you to be in your life. And that's more powerful than this dependent need that you feel like you can't survive without him. And it totally changed everything, because then I realized we choose to be in each other's lives. And that's a really cool thing, you know? So, yeah. All right. Let's see. Another question. What was it like coming out to your parents? I came out to my mom, and I told her I was bisexual, and she said, come on, Peter. You're not bisexual. But you know, like, what's so funny is, like, today, all of the ways that people identify are very serious, and they always were, but I feel like a lot of my friends that were gay guys back in the day, like, we came out as bisexual first because it almost seemed like an easier transition. And what I know today is that, man, bisexual people, I feel for you. Like, they have their, I mean, it's just, you know, people don't take it seriously, and they are just, you know, it's always like, I have, like, girlfriends of mine that are bisexual, and guys always want to fetishize it, and I think it's disgusting. And then I have a few male friends of mine that are bisexual too, and then it's like, I don't know, they're just perceived in a different way. It's, I don't know, I feel for that. Coming out to my dad and my stepmom was super easy. My dad told me that he had known most of my life and that he was just ready to have the conversation. I didn't really have a difficult coming out. Both of my parents were extremely supportive. I've always brought boyfriends around to Christmases and holidays and things like that. My aunt and my uncle were at my wedding, representing my mom's side of the family. My dad gave me away. Alex's mom walked him down the aisle. His brother, we call Fufu, Juan Carlos, he read at our wedding. Carlos and Liliana, that was actually the first time that I met my sister-in-law, Liliana. They were at the wedding. They had flown straight from Venezuela with Fufu because he had been there that summer visiting them. You know, we are so blessed to have family that are so supportive of us, and it's just never been an issue, really, you know? And in fact, when I met Alex's mom, because she's only about 12 years older than me, 10 years older than me. And I thought, she's going to wonder, here's another walker in the woods. I thought she's going to wonder because there's a 12-year age difference. What's this older guy? You know, what's going on here? Alex was 24. I was 36. She was a devout Catholic from Venezuela, and I was, like, very worried about what she would think about the whole situation. And so I really wanted her to get to know me as a person first. And I did that, you know. I really had conversations with her and got to know her, and she got to know me, and I answered any questions she had. I will say this, the recovery piece, I think, made her trust me a lot quicker, because I think she really had a lot of respect for that. And she would ask me a lot of questions about recovery. She still does. She follows my Peterisms channel, and she did the Magic book by Rhonda Byrne, and she also has read Codependent No More, and she also has the 40 Days and 40 Nights by Melody Beatty. She wants to do that book, and she also has oh shoot, why can't I even think, the meditation book by Melody Beatty. It's not Journey to the Heart, it's the other one. Why can't I think of it? I read it every single day. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned? How did it change you? Love you. Probably one of the biggest life lessons that I have learned in the last year or two, really has changed a lot for me is, you know, like, the saying, like, when you're pointing at somebody, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Yes, that's true. But here's the deal, and this kind of goes back to the whole, like, video and all of that before. You know, it's like, I can spend my time being super consumed and concerned with what all these people, you know, think about me or say about me. And I can spend my time, you know, it's like, if I want to get online, I want to say, let me show you what this person did to me. Let me tell you who they really are. If you only knew what this person did to me, right, then you would look at them in a different way. There's so much of that, right, especially on YouTube. Let me prove to you who this person is. I'm not talking about me doing drama videos, okay? I'm talking about personal interactions. And I've even been part of that, right? But it's like, and I still fall to that, right? I still fall to that. I'm not a perfect example of anything. But when I learned more in my personal life with my personal interactions with people, I would rather spend that time and that energy focusing on myself and working on bettering myself, because half these people, I'm not even going to know where they're at in 5 years. I have spent so much time and energy worrying about people that are not even in my life today, right? Why did I do that? Like, and I'm not saying that from a selfish point of view. I mean, to be of service to others and to care about people, that's one thing, right? But to be consumed with worrying about somebody else and proving them wrong and all that kind of stuff, it's like, it's tiring, you know? And so I don't do that in my personal life anymore. That's probably one of the greatest lessons I've learned. I think the other thing is to choose peace and serenity, you know? I can get real worked up and I can be angry and I can be like, what do I choose, you know? What do I choose today? And the third greatest lesson probably is, my sponsor taught me this, is that when difficult situations present themselves in my life, those are opportunities for change. And the question is, are you going to take it or not? And that has been that has probably been the most valuable lesson, because these things that have happened in my life are just profound moments and opportunities for growth that have allowed me to ultimately have a better life, you know, and I'm very, very thankful for them. Okay, let's see. What makes you happy? What makes you so happy you cry? You know, it's so interesting that I got asked that question. I love that question. I could probably start crying thinking about things, you know? I think sometimes it's not even something that I think about. It's just, I will have days where I'm listening to a song and I just feel so at peace, and I feel so blessed and so content with my life as it is, that I just am like flooded with like happy tears. I actually cry more out of joy than I do out of sadness today. And that's something that I never really thought I could say. You know, it's kind of this joke because I cry all the time in my videos and on my vlog and stuff. But when I was a kid growing up, I didn't cry. Like my dad would tell you, Peter didn't cry at all. I mean, I just didn't. I didn't throw temper. He was a great child. He never threw temper tantrums. He never cried. None of that stuff. In fact, one time Alex was making this joke about me being an only child, and my dad was like, hold it just there for a second. Peter was not that only child that you see throwing temper tantrums, demanding things, crying, whatever. He was not that at all. He shared, he was, you know, so thank you, Dad. But, you know, things of joy make me cry today. I think strong feelings of emotions and being attached to people. Talking about my best friend makes me cry because, like, I always say this, you know, like when I got sober, they told me that, that, you know, like if I did the things they did, that I would repair the relationships in my life. But what they never told me was that I would have the greatest friend that I'd ever had in my entire life. That would literally be my heartstone through everything and always there for me. And see, but I'm so grateful for her. And yeah, and I'm so grateful for my sobriety. And I am such a believer in putting your sobriety as a priority always, because I wouldn't have anything in my life if it wasn't as a result of my sobriety today. So I wouldn't have my marriage, I wouldn't have my best friend, I wouldn't have anything. Let's see. What made you come back after your first meeting that you went to on your own post-rehab? I've talked so much about early recovery on my vlog the last couple days, so I'm not going to talk about it on here. Go check out my last 2 vlogs, including the one that I'm posting today. Let's see. Have you ever gone without a beard? Yeah, I didn't actually start growing my beard out until the day after we got married in Las Vegas in 2011. So it would have been August 26, 2011. I always shaved. And one of the things was, I never wanted, I don't know why, but my mom, like, she always just liked a smooth face, and I never would have grown out a beard, I think, if my mom were alive, because I just didn't know what she would think of that, you know? So I had wanted to before, but I don't ever want, like, a really, really long beard. We have friends of ours that have real long beards. I'm like, I can't even imagine how you manage it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for those questions. I really enjoyed doing this today, and these are the kind of Q&As that I absolutely love doing. And if you like this, come over to my Peter Does Stuff channel, come over to my Peterisms channel, come over to my vlog, because it's called Peter Vlogs. These are the kind of things I talk about on a daily basis on those channels. And I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making my dreams come true. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.